Hello and welcome back to FortitudeRx Radio, your health and fitness operating system. Today I'm going to be talking about something that is all too common in people's journeys through health and fitness, and that is getting really bored with what you're doing. If you go to any gym, you'll see, let me restate, if you go to any gym and you watch for months and months at a time and just sort of observe what people are doing and get the feel for the regulars there, you'll notice that most of them are doing things that are the same thing, the same workouts specifically, the same weights and effort levels. What you'll notice is that most people in gyms are not actually making any sort of progress past their first few months. And that becomes very frustrating for most people, and that's why they quit. But also, there's a lot of people out there that are still trying really hard to keep up their consistent effort and do the things that they're doing over and over again, but they don't see any progress because they're not changing anything up. They're not trying harder, they're not trying different things. And so when that happens, you become that person who just sort of goes to the gym. And now, of course, that's better than not going to the gym. I'm not going to be someone who's gatekeeping whether or not you go to the gym because you're not working hard enough for my opinions, because it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to give you some insights onto why you may or may not be progressing when it comes to how you're going about structuring these things. Number one, when going into your workout feels more like a chore than a challenge, what do you do about that? Number two, how does shaking things up actually reignite your ability to make progress again and not just make you feel like you're just doing something different for muscle confusion or whatever, something that's actually useful? And number three, why personalizing your fitness approach is actually key to both sustainable progress and breaking the monotony of fitness to get back to doing something that you actually enjoy and you can do for a long time. If you're new here, my name is Tyler Campbell. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, a health and fitness coach who is a certified strength and conditioning specialist and nutrition coach, and I help busy adults improve their health and fitness through evidence-based practices and strategies that align with their life, personality, and aspirations. Welcome to FortitudeRx Radio, your health and fitness operating system. Let's get right to it. So let's get right into topic number one. Why is it important that we actually do switch up the routine when things are becoming stale? It's not just because of the feeling better about what we're doing or looking forward to going to the gym, although that is a big part of it, and I'll talk about that in a bit. It's really more about the fact that going and doing that same thing keeps you exactly where you are when it comes to your health and fitness. Your goals are going to get further and further away from you the more and more you do the exact same thing because your body's going to adapt to what you're doing and therefore start to regress. You're not going to get better by doing the same thing. You're going to eventually get worse by doing the same thing. Your body needs progressive overload and reasons for keeping muscle. If your body becomes more efficient at doing something, so say you are doing a bench press 3 sets of 10 reps at 225, and you only do that for months and months on end, or years and years on end, as I've seen a lot of people do, eventually your body's going to be good enough at doing that that it no longer needs to produce the force or the energy or keep the muscle to do that as much because you're going to be better and better at doing that, better and better at leveraging the weight and things along those lines. And so when you become better at something, and this is really a much easier concept to grasp with cardio, if you go and walk a mile and it's very hard for you the first time, and eventually you get to the point where it's very easy for you to do, and you just keep doing that same mile at the same effort level, same pace, and everything like that, eventually you're no longer going to get any training effect out of it. You did get a training effect out of it when you first started because it was hard to do, and it stayed hard for a while until it became progressively easier and easier and easier until it no longer meant anything to your body other than this is what we do. I can say the same or get worse, and it doesn't really matter. The same thing goes for any sort of weight training or other training modalities like that. So this isn't about trying something entirely new, although I'm going to give you the benefits of doing that as well when it comes to trying to incorporate other training modalities rather than just say that 3 sets of 10 at 225. This is actually about understanding progressive overload and also switching things up in a way that provides enough versatility and variety in your training to keep your body moving along and improving. And I want to dispel the myth that there's something called muscle confusion that's real. There's not. But there is such a thing as having a variety of exercise and variety of tensions going on in the body in order to build enough muscle or build enough robustness or strength or abilities surrounding movement that you can avoid the plateaus that come with the usual suspects of training at a 3 sets of 10 sort of range all the time, year upon year, never ending. That's something that's very exciting for your body and your brain. Think about the first time you went into a gym. And if you're brand new to this, look forward to experiencing this. But the first time you go into a gym, you start lifting and any exercise at all. Over the course of a few weeks, you become monumentally better at it. You get an improvement in all of the neurological components that go with it. This is what neuroplasticity is. Essentially, your brain is forming new pathways to become better at doing the thing. You build motor units, all the physiological things that don't really matter right now. All those newbie gains, as we call them, are things that are neurological in nature. You won't start gaining muscle within the first few weeks because it doesn't work that quickly. So it's all neurological based. It's all your brain just saying, let's knock this thing out, brain and peripheral nervous system. But I bring this up because it's actually something that's very important. Your brain craves the chase of something like this. It wants to get better at things. It wants to form new connections so that it's not always digging the same path and getting the same result. Effectively, you end up with a depression of sorts where you're just in the same path doing the same thing over and over again. Not necessarily a mental illness sort of depression, but a physical boredom with doing the same thing over and over again. But you feel like this is what you're supposed to do, so I just follow this path. It also feels like it's hard to get out of that path sometimes because those new things seem daunting because they're hard again. But people like to stay in the things that are easy, but our brains crave doing things that are hard because it makes us grow and it makes the brain work harder and work better. Now, this doesn't always look like going from CrossFit to straight up bodybuilding only. It usually looks like something that's a little bit less intense of a change. It can be doing single leg work more often, or doing something that includes a single arm movement or body weight movements you're not used to, or anything of that sort. There's all kinds of ways to do this, using kettlebells instead of dumbbells, using dumbbells instead of barbells. Using them in conjunction with each other is really how we do these things anyway. What it looks like usually is actually just being bad at a new movement or a new implement, losing your balance, etc. And then within a few weeks, what it looks like is getting better and better at it and enjoying it more and more because you're able to find more stability, use more weight, push harder, and have more fun doing it because you become more proficient at it. Routine might feel comfortable to you, but comfort does not promote growth or progress in really any area of your life. You need to step out of your comfort zone, lift in a different way, like I said, with different implements, run a new route, challenge yourself with different intensity zones of cardio or intensity levels in training modalities. Lift with different implements, change up your stance, change up your setup, lift with bands and chains, lift with kettlebells, lift with things that are unusual. Go for a short walk with heavy dumbbells or just do things that are odd to you. I want you to basically surprise yourself with testing your boundaries of movement and how you're doing things and how uncomfortable you can get with emotion without it being dangerous, of course. We want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that is safe and is not a circus act, of course. We're not trying to step on top of the handle of a kettlebell while balancing a Bosu ball in our head with a barbell on top of it. I'm just talking about making slight changes, maybe 1 or 2 degrees away from what you're already doing, but in a way that makes it harder for you to accomplish what you want to accomplish because that just means you're going to find ways to get better at it and you're going to get better from there. Hopefully I've made my point clear on this first idea. It's all about the chase when it comes to staying engaged and keeping your body not guessing, but progressing in a way that leaves it in a state of being versatile and able to do many things rather than just being able to do the one thing that you get better and better at doing until you basically get worse at it because you haven't done anything else. With that, I'm going to dive into why fitness and the things that you're doing in the gym or outside the gym should be as unique to you as your fingerprint is. And so there's a lot of cookie cutter exercise programs out there that can work great for a number of people, usually in the novice stages of things. So if you're in that stage and you just need something to get you from a couch to 5K, there's something called that specifically. There's also things that are for 3x5 programs for powerlifting and the bodybuilding.com, such and such programs for starting to get some strength and muscle. There's a lot of those things, but if you just continue to follow those things, you're not going to get fired up about it. You're not going to enjoy it and have a passion for what you're doing. And as I'll say many times in this podcast, and I probably have before, if you dread what you're doing or you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're eventually just going to stop doing it because it's not fun. Fitness should absolutely be fun. It should absolutely add to your life. And if it doesn't, there's definitely a way for it too. You just haven't found it yet. I want you to think about it this way. If you're super spontaneous in life and fun loving and do crazy stuff all the time, and it's just your nature to do that, do you think that a very rigid, structured, follow this percentage or weight plan is going to be something that is enjoyable to you, that just changes month over month and is linear in nature and just up and up and up? and there's really no variation in what you do. You follow essentially the same plan, essentially the same movements, and you just sort of try to add weight or reps to it. Sounds pretty boring if you're someone who is absolutely spontaneous otherwise. On the other hand, if you're someone who loves structure and planning and organization, you might find yourself going crazy if you have something that is highly variable in nature. This means that your fitness needs to align with your personality and your preferences for spontaneity, organization, exercise types, etc. It should get you excited, not stressed or bored to death. Here's the thing, when you align your fitness with your personality, magic happens. You enjoy it more, which means two things. You're more consistent with it and you push harder, which means you are getting better results and more of them all the time. It's not about fitting you into a box. It's about building a pathway that is going to fit you like a glove. It makes you feel like you're doing the right thing finally. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with is feeling like they're not doing the right thing. They're not sure if what they're doing is going to get them results. They're not sure if they're able to sustain it for a long time, just like you should be able to do. And so that's where you run into a big problem is that when you feel like you're not doing the right thing, it's a very short path to giving up on that thing. But when you feel like you're doing the right thing or you feel like you're on the right path, that path becomes a lot easier to continue to forge. But it's also not about avoiding what you don't like. There's probably a chance that the things that you don't like should be sprinkled in a little bit. If you hate the structure and the idea of bodybuilding, there's probably a reason for that. It may be that you just suck at doing it and you may need to build some muscle through structured bodybuilding. But that can be just short few weeks or a month or two of efforts towards that, or even just effectively sprinkling it in throughout each workout 15 minutes at a time so that you get the benefits without it being something that is in your way all the time. Bottom line is the fitness you do has to align with who you are, what your goals are, and what your life looks like so that you easily implement it, you enjoy it, and you get better results from pushing harder and doing more with it. If you're always doing the same thing and you enjoy it, so be it, but you're probably not going to continue to see results, which may take that enjoyment away eventually. Here's my story when it comes to this idea overall. I had been identifying myself as a powerlifter for so long. I've been lifting for almost 18 years now, pretty hard. And through the first couple of years, I wasn't technically lifting like a powerlifter because I had to learn the way to figure it all out. Something a lot of people have to do is just find their way. And I found my way to powerlifting and started competing in that for a few years. And even after I stopped competing about 6 years ago before going into PT school, um, after that, I still continued to train like a powerlifter and think about being a powerlifter without being in the sport itself. What that did was it eventually made me continue to try to reach new PRs and push into one rep maxes and things like that. And I would find myself injured, half the time or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter, just essentially too often for my liking. And so I was getting more and more frustrated with the process of being a powerlifter. And what I found was that I stopped caring about doing those things, but not to the point where I stopped going to the gym. I just stopped making progress because I wasn't caring about what I was doing. I was trying hard, um, but those injuries and those not always acute injuries, but like little strains here and there, and then chronic things like patellar or quadriceps tendinopathies. Same thing with some pec injuries, stuff like that. So little things, minor things, but things that are nagging injuries that are annoying enough to start disliking what I'm doing. And so what I found or what I realized when I started developing ethos and the ideas surrounding all of the training qualities that exist, I realized that I was missing most of those qualities. I've always been a pretty athletic person, naturally kind of strong and muscular, fast, things like that. But I always avoided cardio. Over the 17 and a half years that I've been lifting, the amount of times I've done cardio for an actual sustained effort, like months at a time to get better at it, has been precisely 0 times until recently. I'm not all about needing to do cardio in order to burn calories or anything like that. It's literally just for cardio protective benefits and also getting better at cardio to just be better at using my energy systems in my body. So I started stationary biking recently in the last few months, and I've come to actually enjoy it a lot. I don't always look forward to it, just in the same way I don't always look forward to squatting heavy weights. But what I found is that getting better and better at something and seeing the benefits on my aura ring metrics, like my heart rate going down while I'm getting more and more miles or more and more output on the bike means that I'm getting better at it. It means that I'm improving my physiological and anatomical things again, as opposed to feeling like I'm just staying the same, even if I'm pushing hard. So with that, what I've found is that it's transferred over into my lifting because I've gotten better at recovering between sets. I've been able to do more work in less time. I've been able to improve my fitness overall to become a better lifter in general. So the things that are surrounding powerlifting that I was disliking now might be improving because I'm getting better blood flow to the areas and things like that as well. I'm going to start implementing a lot more things. And I've done that with kettlebells and mobility work and things like that. But there's a lot more stuff to add. And that's the exciting part, is that there's not always this set thing to do, and you're able to change things up over time. And the beauty of it is that I'll actually probably get a little bit worse at being top end strong. So my one rep maxes and things like that. But when I do, and if I do decide to come back to that, what I'll have is a new base of versatility and robustness to lend itself towards getting better without being injured as easily. And so that's how you want to think about this stuff is make sure that the base that you've built isn't for one thing. You don't want to be the jack of all trades and master of none. That's not the point. It's to build up the standard that you need to become better at the one thing you want to become better at it, if that's your goal. If you want to become the jack of all trades and master of none, then absolutely do that. But there's probably some things that you want to program in where you're doing a little bit more versatility work, a little bit more control work here and there, do stuff like that, more cardio here, less cardio there. There's all kinds of ways to do this, but the point is that you need to figure out what things support your actual goals and understanding what your goals actually are. So my goals as a powerlifter were always increase my one rep max, but that's not my mission, as I call it. It's really to just feel strong, look good, and enjoy what I'm doing. I want to enjoy my favorite hobby of lifting. And if I wasn't doing that, then things need to change. So look at your fitness training, make sure that you're not always doing the same thing, or if you're new to it, try to avoid the most standard of things that are going to basically get boring really quickly. So in light of this discussion, how does it make you think about your training if you have a training routine already? And if you don't, how is it going to make you think about how you're going to implement effective training that's going to be something that is actually sustainable for you? Want to make sure that it's fun, exciting, keeps you going, keeps you pushing hard, because it's not about being fit necessarily. It's about finding the things that a fit person would do in order to find the things within that that you enjoy doing and can do sustainably so that you actually do them, push hard on them. And eventually, what will happen is that you will feel yourself becoming that strong, fit, healthy person without having to try when it comes to willpower and motivation and discipline and things like that. It's more about just doing the things that you like. And that means finding the things that you like. I'm going to be talking about this a lot in this podcast, the personalization aspect of everything, because that is actually how Ethos works. It's a very in depth and unique system of getting you healthy and fit through personalization and finding your unique pattern of what's going to stick and how it's going to be something you actually want to do and push hard on. And it's going to be the last health and fitness system that you will ever need because it will adapt with you and adapt with your personality and how things change and how life throws curveballs at you. So if you got anything out of this podcast, I would appreciate it if you would rate it, comment if there's a commenting section somewhere, subscribe to it, and share it with someone that you think would benefit from it. Share it to your stories on social media, share it as a post. That would be great. Anything you can do would be super helpful, and we would appreciate it very much. Again, my name is Tyler Campbell. This is FortitudeRx Radio, your health and fitness operating system. I'll talk to you later.